I grew up with Windows 3.1, but didn't use it a lot to game. For that, I primarily used DOS. This changed slightly when I got my IBM Aptiva with a CD drive, and I got introduced to the world of optical discs. Oh yeah! This intensified when my pal Jairus lent me a shareware disc of 1,000 games. This one, in fact. Well, not this exact disc. I ordered this one from eBay a few months back for nostalgia's sake. But the game I'm reviewing today, Castle of the Winds, came from this disc. Well, again, not this one, the old one that I don't have anymore. You had access to the entire first part of the game, and the second part was the paid portion. That didn't stop me from playing the shareware version many times, just to see how powerful I could get. Castle of the Winds is a very minimalistic looking game, but is surprisingly deep in mechanics. You play as a male or female character in a Norse world. From the start, you are able to customize some of your stats, allowing you to create the character that you feel would benefit your playstyle the most. You can opt to purchase various gear at the multiple shops in town, or you can head north and into the mine in order to start your journey. The goal is simple: avenge your parents, who were slaughtered by an unknown force. You enter this cave to try learning some answers, and you'll run into lots of different creatures. Giant rats, wild dogs, scorpions, vipers, and goblins are the starting threats. But by the end of the game, you'll be fighting manticores, rat men, ghosts, and orcs, among other things. With this, you'll obviously need a way to fight these threats. Combat is extremely simple to understand. You use the number pad or arrow keys to move your character on the tile-based map, and if you attempt to move to a square that the enemy occupies, you'll attack them. Once you attack them, they will strike back if they are still alive, and then it's your turn again. If you get close to an enemy and try to skirt around them, they may still attack if in range, so evasion isn't always possible. Sadly, there are no bows in the game, so the only ranged option is magic. This is equally as easy to use. Just click the spell you want to cast from the toolbar at the top of the screen, and then click the target. You will obviously need some magic points in order to cast the applicable spells, so if you run dry, hand-to-hand is the only choice you got. In between battles, you can opt to rest, but there are two types. A basic rest will allow you to only relax until your HP is full. A more thorough but lengthier rest option will replenish your MP. One thing of note is that resting doesn't pause the enemies, so if one gets close, it will interrupt your attempt to heal. This is when having a healing spell or item is beneficial, in case you just can't heal quickly enough. In addition, poison is a real threat, at least early in the game when you don't have a lot of life. Many times you may be poisoned, attempt to rest it off, and end up dead. You can use antidotes, a neutralized poison spell, or head back to town to attempt to remove the poison. It will wear off on its own after time, but it's a matter of can you survive it before it's run its course. As you're exploring the dungeons, you'll see plenty of items on the ground. You can pick up everything, as long as you have space in your inventory. At first, any sort of item will be unknown. You can risk using the item or equipping it to determine what it is or does, but this isn't a wise idea as items can be useless, such as blank scrolls or potions being distilled water, and equipment may be cursed. You can opt to have a sage in town explain what these items are, and once an item has been identified, you'll always know what it is. Equipment, on the other hand, will always need to be identified. One thing that is kind of frustrating is that equipment doesn't flat out tell you what the equipment will do stat-wise. For example, how much better are iron shields over wooden shields? Is a hammer better than a sword? And is a flail better than both? Should I use enchanted studded leather armor or standard iron armor? You can kinda guess on what's best, but there's nothing that I've seen that was concrete proof of one piece of equipment being better than others. There are also traps that you'll run into. Once you trigger one, it's possible to hit it again, depending on the trap type. You can attempt to disarm traps, but there is a small chance that you'll fall into it, doing additional damage. You can also bypass most traps by using either enchanted boots with levitation or a levitation spell. The boots are cheap enough, so that was my preferred option. If there is one thing I must complain about with dungeons, it's the fact that you could potentially get stuck for a very long time if you don't have the right spell or item. There are many hidden areas, and even secret doors. It's very possible that you get into a new floor and find out there's no way to progress unless you have a spell like Clairvoyance, which shows you everything in a specific area, including hidden doors. In fact, because of this, Clairvoyance might be the most useful and almost required spell in the game, maybe even more important than a healing spell. Another minor nitpick is that you don't see any damage numbers when attacking your enemies. It would have been nice to see exactly how much hurt you were putting onto your enemies, as it would have also shown what weapons might have been better than others. Instead, everything is done via generic text that is displayed at the bottom of the screen. There is no sound in the game, other than the generic Windows error sound when you try doing something that you're not supposed to do, so I can't really talk about that. And let's face it, the graphics are minimal. Animation is nearly non-existent, with even most of the spells being static icons that move. Even color is almost non-existent, although I will say that rooms that are blue are supposedly lit, with grayish-white tiles meaning they aren't illuminated. Why these rooms are blue and not, say, yellow? I don't understand. And that's Castle of the Winds. I haven't finished the second game yet, but it feels nearly identical to the first, with the option of importing your previous character being a nice little feature. It's a fun time, too. Randomized dungeons each time you play ensure that not one playthrough is the same, and although it can be difficult at times, if you persevere, you'll be fine. If you can't find a specific item or piece of gear in the dungeon, you can hope to find it in the ever-changing inventories of the shops. Even when you complete the game, you may want to start it back up to see a new dungeon. Castle of the Winds is available on multiple abandonware websites, so it's easy enough to find. It's a fun weekend killer, and runs perfectly fine on modern systems. If you don't mind the minimalistic look, it's a worthy experience. Final score? 5 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.